We could conceptualize hypnosis into as many steps as we wanted to. We could make it 100 steps if we wanted to. But basically, there are 5 steps that I commonly refer to as the hypnotic process. So as we go further into this course and you really begin to work with that individual who comes in your office and sits in the chair in front of you and is asking you to hypnotize them, what is it that you're going to be doing? We've talked about hypnosis to this point, but what does the process of hypnosis look like? Well, there are 5 basic or core elements of the hypnotic process. The first is sometimes referred to as pre-talk. I'm going to actually refer to it here as consent. There are 2 things that we always want permission to do anytime we're working in hypnosis with somebody. First, I want consent or permission to work with them. We have to have a client who is in agreement with our idea to work with them hypnotically. I view hypnosis as something we do with permission, not something we do without permission. Hypnosis is a gift that we can give to people, but not everybody wants that gift. In 2006, I opened up an office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I called it the Tulsa Hypnosis Center. And my mother, who comes from a very, how do I say this politely, comes from a very different religious experience or belief set than my own, said, "Oh my gosh, you're opening up a place called the Tulsa Hypnosis Center. Why don't you call it something else, anything but hypnosis? Why don't you call it, the Tulsa Wellness Center or the Tulsa Center for, happy people or something, anything but hypnosis?" What she literally didn't want, she didn't want her friends driving by my office on that busy road and seeing Richard Nongard, Tulsa Hypnosis Center. And I said to my mom, "No, I want to call it the Tulsa Hypnosis Center." She said, "What if somebody doesn't want to be hypnotized?" And then I said to her, "Well, then I don't want them as my client. I only want people who want what I have to offer." And at that point, I was leaving the world of doing psychotherapy, where I integrated hypnosis, and I began to exclusively and only offer hypnosis as a service. And so I only wanted people to come to see me who wanted to be hypnotized. So I called it the Tulsa Hypnosis Center. So we should always be working with compliant clients or collaborative clients. A great metaphor for hypnosis that Ernest Rossi talked about was belly button to belly button communication. We're doing something with somebody, not doing something to them. So our pre-talk is really about gaining rapport and agreement so that we can go on with the hypnotic processes and procedures that are going to benefit them. So our pre-talk demystifies hypnosis. It answers questions that our clients might have. It's a place for me to share about some of my own experiences. That's an element of social proof. And again, for me to get permission to work with my client, because I'm a licensed mental health professional, and I encourage hypnotists, even if they're not licensed mental health professionals, to use a written informed consent form where a client signs that they are giving you permission to do hypnosis with them and to work with them. The other thing that we always want consent for initially before we ever start a process is if we're going to touch clients. Now, I rarely touch my clients during the course of hypnosis or therapy. I prefer not to. I'm not a real touchy guy. There's a place for non-shaming, non-sexual, affirming, healthy touch, so I will touch people. But if I'm going to touch them during a hypnosis session, it's important for me before the session begins to tell them how and why I'm going to touch them during the session and to ask for permission. So those are some of the elements of the pre-talk that I think are essential. And again, we're going to develop those as we go on a little bit further. The next element then is the induction. What is the induction? When Richard says hypnotic induction or induction into hypnosis, this is where a client we associate with, and now go ahead and close your eyes, relax the muscles of your body. This is where we guide a person into the experience or the absorption of hypnosis. Now, one of the key things about the induction here is that I'm giving suggestions. Go ahead and close the eyes. Relax the muscles of the jaw. Let the shoulders drop. Uncross the hands. Let them rest on the side of the chair. These are all suggestions. I know that my client is going to respond positively to my post-hypnotic suggestions later in the session if they're responding affirmatively to the suggestions I give at the beginning of the session. So the basic principle of hypnotic induction is this. When I'm giving a suggestion, I can't move to the second suggestion until I have manifestation of the first suggestion. So if I see somebody who's, sitting up in the chair, they're not relaxed at all, and I tell them to relax the muscles and they even tense up further, well, then I know that I have resistance at one level or another. So we either need to open the eyes and go back to pre-talk and figure out what that resistance is, or I need to sharpen my suggestions so that they create an affirmative response. But our induction is that process that brings a person into a focused resource state that we're going to call hypnosis. Now, I think there's something else important in the induction, and I'm going to share with you a script and a way of doing a hypnotic induction. But a hypnotic induction should teach specific skills. I view hypnosis as something I'm doing with somebody, and so I'm teaching them skills much like a coach. The skill of relaxation, the skill of focusing attention, the skill of harnessing creativity, the skill of stepping into a new experience. And so I view induction not as something we're trying to get through so we can get to the good stuff in hypnosis, but if we do hypnotic suggestion correctly, it is in fact the good stuff. Now the deepener you will recognize and as you close your eyes and relax, let me count backwards from 5 to 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do a deepener. That is called a number count deepener. It's the most common and most popular deepener, and the reason why it's simple for people to do. And so, there are many different deepening strategies, and we're going to talk about different approaches to deepening later on. But really what we're doing is we're taking what we've done in the induction, we're ratifying it, and we're bringing it to a point of amplification or focus. And so that's what the deepening technique is all about. The fourth step in this process, the hypnotic process, is the suggestive therapy component. Now, there are a lot of ways to do suggestive therapy. Indirect suggestion is what we associate with metaphor, parable, storytelling. These are the ideas often of Milton Erickson. Or direct suggestion, where we tell a person what they're going to do. One of the suggestions that I give to my weight loss clients is this. And you'll begin to walk each and every day, taking more steps today than yesterday, more steps tomorrow than today, more steps the next day than tomorrow until you reach 10,000 steps per day. That is an example of a direct suggestion. The suggestion I give to my weight loss clients, because we know that physical activity increases weight loss, and we also know that walking is the easiest physical activity for weight loss clients to begin to engage in. You don't need a gym membership for it. Everybody has the capacity to do it. It doesn't need to be learned. Walking is fairly non-threatening. And so I give that suggestion to my weight loss clients. That's an example of a direct suggestion. I'm going to talk about how we go about constructing suggestive therapy in several videos later on in this course, but that's the fourth step in the process. And the fifth thing then is the post-hypnotic suggestions. Really all suggestions are post-hypnotic suggestions, but any specific post-hypnotic suggestions, I give almost all my clients the post-hypnotic suggestion that they will listen to an MP3, a hypnosis recording that I give them when the session is over. So that's an example of a post-hypnotic suggestion. But then we want our client to be reoriented. Most of our clients, if they have a 2 o'clock in the afternoon appointment, aren't going to bed, they're going back to work. And so I want them refreshed, invigorated, feeling good, reoriented. We don't want people having a hypnotic hangover and having that feeling like they took a nap and just can't get right the rest of the day. And so the reorientation process, the fifth step in our process, is about eliminating the risk for the hypnotic hangover. And you can do it in a number of different ways, but I have people begin to focus on their breath, to envision that breath bringing oxygen to every cell of the body, because that's what a breath does, and that oxygen invigorates them. And I reorient them, having them eventually become aware of the chair below them. I don't want them off balance or falling. Have you ever been just suddenly woken up by an alarm clock or by an alarm or something like that? It's not an experience that we want our clients to experience. So I'm going to reorient them in an energizing, an appropriate, and an uplifting, and a motivational way. Those are the 5 steps in the hypnotic process. So as we continue on in this course, the ICBCH Gold Hypnosis Certification course, we're going to build on each one of these 5 stages so that we can do clinical hypnosis with a client who comes to our office, sits in the chair in front of us, and expects us to be able to help them create success.